Hey guys, tonight we're diving into one of the most unexpected and amusing myths from Greek mythology, a tale of pride, music, and a surprising competition. Imagine yourself in ancient Greece, surrounded by gods, mortals, and the gentle hum of nature. The god Apollo, known for his unparalleled skill in music, is about to face an unanticipated challenge, one that will test his pride and the very essence of his artistry. Apollo, the god of the sun, light, and music, has always been known for his exceptional skill with the lyre, an instrument so beautiful that it could make even the trees and animals pause in awe. But little does he know, someone very different is about to shake up his world. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're at it, drop a comment about where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fun to hear from those across the globe, relaxing with me under the spell of ancient myths. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Apollo, full of confidence in his talents, is about to engage in a music contest with a challenger who, on the surface, seems unlikely. We find ourselves standing on a vibrant Greek hillside, where Apollo has set the stage for what he believes will be an easy win. The gods gather, eager to hear the contest unfold, each one excited to witness Apollo's performance, as he has never been bested in music. His lyre, made of divine gold and strung with the finest strings, gleams under the warm sun, and as he raises it to play, the earth itself seems to hold its breath. His fingers strum with grace, and the sound that emanates from the lyre is nothing short of magical. It resonates through the air, filling the surrounding land with harmony. You can imagine how mesmerizing the music must have been, a divine melody that echoes across the hills, a sound so pure that even the gods, who were accustomed to such beauty, stopped in their tracks to listen. But here's the thing, Apollo isn't facing just any ordinary opponent. In fact, his challenger isn't even a god. Enter the Satyr, a creature of rustic charm, with goat legs, wild eyes, and a mischievous grin. The Satyr, known for his love of music and playful nature, has joined the contest on a whim, unprepared for the godly talents of Apollo, but nonetheless ready to show what he can do. It's a far cry from the celestial grace Apollo brings, and yet, the Satyr's music has something Apollo never expected, a raw, earthy authenticity. Historians still argue whether the Satyr's challenge was a result of divine mischief, or simply an opportunity to show that even the humblest among them could have a place in the world of gods. What is clear is that the contest set the stage for an unexpected clash between godly perfection and natural charm, a clash that would alter the way both gods and mortals viewed music forever. Word count, 563. The contest is set, the stage is prepared, and Apollo, brimming with divine confidence, is ready to claim yet another victory. His lyre, held expertly in his hands, is the embodiment of all that is celestial and harmonious. The gods, gathered around him in eager anticipation, know the outcome before it even begins. Apollo has never known defeat in the realm of music, and the thought of being surpassed by anyone, let alone a satyr, is laughable. His music, like the sun he governs, shines brightly and without flaw. It is clear that Apollo is here not just to play, but to dazzle. As he begins, the melodies pour forth effortlessly from the strings of his golden lyre. The sound is pure, almost divine in its beauty. You can hear it in your mind, the soft plucking of the strings, the rise and fall of the notes that seem to weave through the air, bringing with them the warmth of spring and the energy of life itself. The birds stop singing, the wind stills, and the very trees seem to lean in to listen. Apollo's music is so perfect that it leaves no room for doubt. This is the music of the gods. Yet, here comes the Satyr. He steps forward with a nonchalant smile, a creature of the earth, his pan flute tucked under his arm. The Satyr, with his rough hands and wild hair, is far from the divine figure Apollo represents. The gods may chuckle at his appearance, a creature so far removed from the elegance and refinement of their world, but they are also curious to hear the music that will follow. What could this Satyr, a creature of simple nature, possibly bring to such a high-stakes contest? As the Satyr lifts the pan flute to his lips, the gods brace themselves for something rough, something unpolished. But what emerges from the Satyr's simple instrument is not at all what they expect. The sound is earthy, raw, and deeply resonant. It carries with it the sound of wind through the trees, the rustling of leaves, the heartbeat of nature itself. The melody is not perfect, it is unrefined, and yet there is something about it that stirs the soul in a way Apollo's perfection does not. It's as though the Satyr's music isn't just heard but felt, deep in the chest and heart. The gods find themselves shifting, unsure of what they're experiencing. Historians still argue about the Satyr's performance. Was it the natural music of the earth, untouched by divine influence, that held power? Some believe that the Satyr's music spoke directly to the gods, touching upon a more primal connection to the world that even the gods of Olympus could not ignore. Others suggest that it was merely the contrast between Apollo's perfect music and the Satyr's humble, rustic tune that made the latter more captivating. As the music fills the air, the gods listen intently. Some, including Apollo, are clearly shocked. No one expected this humble performance to compete with the celestial sound of Apollo's lyre. But what the Satyr's music lacks in technical perfection, it makes up for in emotional depth. It is a reminder that music, in its purest form, is not just about technique or beauty, it's about connection. The Satyr's tune connects the gods to the natural world, reminding them that even in the midst of their divine perfection, they are not disconnected from the earth and the creatures who live upon it. And with each note, the contrast between Apollo's celestial perfection and the Satyr's raw authenticity grows more apparent. The gods are no longer merely listening, they are feeling. For the first time, Apollo's flawless music, while still magnificent, feels distant. The gods, once spellbound by the perfection of his sound, now find themselves drawn into the deep, earthy tones of the Satyr's simple melody. As the windmill of divine sound continues to turn, Apollo's irritation begins to bubble beneath his composed exterior. He is no longer merely playing for the admiration of the gods, he's playing for victory. His pride, which had once been steady like the sun itself, now begins to waver. Apollo cannot fathom being surpassed by a creature like the Satyr, whose music seems to echo the very pulse of the earth, raw and untamed. With each note from the pan flute, Apollo feels a sting to his pride. The gods' attentions are no longer solely on him, the great and powerful Apollo, but are divided between his perfected celestial music and the Satyr's earthy, unpredictable tune. You can almost see it in Apollo's face as his brow furrows, his grip on the lyre tightening. The once soft, serene sound of his strings now feels more strained as he pushes to make his music even more beautiful, more divine, more transcendent. His fingers dance more quickly across the strings, his music reaching ever higher in an attempt to regain control of the gods' attention. But something is different now. The Satyr's music isn't competing against Apollo. It is existing in its own right, occupying a space where even the gods can't help but acknowledge its charm. The sound of the pan flute resonates in the air like a forgotten rhythm, a pulse of the earth itself. As the Satyr continues to play, you can hear the difference. The connection between the sound and the natural world is undeniable. It is a reminder of life's imperfections, of the beauty in the rawness of existence. The Satyr's music swells with the sound of rushing rivers, rustling leaves, and distant thunderstorms, each note reminding the gods of the simplicity and majesty of nature. For all Apollo's training, his music cannot bring that same immediacy, that primal connection to the earth, that the Satyr's melody carries. Historians still debate whether Apollo, in his frustration, began to overplay his hand. Some argue that Apollo's desperation to retain his position as the greatest of the gods led him to try too hard, to play with more force than he ever had before, which only made his music less engaging. Others say that Apollo, in his pride, could not accept that his music wasn't the only one that mattered. But one thing is certain, Apollo was beginning to feel the weight of competition, something he had never experienced before. For the first time in his immortal existence, Apollo wasn't just the victor, he was the contender. The gods, once fully captivated by Apollo's flawless divine performance, now find themselves at a crossroads. Some gods, like Hermes and Athena, are quietly amused at the contrast between the two competitors. Others, like Zeus, remain stoic, watching the contest unfold with a sense of bemusement. Apollo's supporters, once vocal in their admiration, now grow silent as the Satyr's music continues to carry the crowd with its unexpected charm. And then it happens. The music stops, and the air falls into an uneasy silence. Apollo, his chest heaving from exertion, watches the Satyr closely. The Satyr, unperturbed, lowers the pan flute and looks at Apollo with a gleam of pride. In that moment, Apollo realizes something important. His music, though beautiful and divine, is not the only type of music that matters. There is a beauty in simplicity, in rawness, in the authenticity of sound that comes from the heart. And as much as it stings, Apollo knows that he has been outplayed, not by a god, but by the unassuming charm of a humble Satyr. The gods turn their eyes toward Zeus, awaiting his judgment. Apollo's frustration is palpable, but there is also a subtle sense of humility that begins to take root in his heart. The gods are waiting for the decision, and you can feel the weight of the moment. This is not just a contest of music, it's a lesson in humility, in recognizing the beauty of all things, even those that don't fit the mold of divine perfection. Historians often debate what this contest between Apollo and the satyr truly meant. Was it a test of skill, or was it a deeper metaphor about the balance between divine and earthly beauty? Some argue that it was Apollo's pride that led to his defeat, while others suggest that the satyr's victory was simply a recognition of the power that lies in simplicity and authenticity. But no matter the debate, the result was clear. The satyr had won, and Apollo had learned a lesson in the process. As the wind begins to pick up, carrying the subtle hum of the pan flute through the air, a shift occurs in the atmosphere. The gods, once so certain of Apollo's victory, now stand in stunned silence. They had been swept away by the power of Apollo's celestial music, the divine notes that seemed to bring light and order into the world. Yet, in the face of the satyr's earthy, unrefined melody, they find themselves questioning what they truly value in music. It's a question that cuts deeper than the surface-level competition. It's a question about the essence of art, of creation, and of how the gods themselves relate to the world. Apollo stands, still gripping his lyre, his face flushed with a mixture of frustration and realization. For the first time, he questions his own superiority. How had the satyr's music, with its rough edges and simplicity, been able to captivate the gods in a way his divine perfection could not? He looks around, his eyes catching the glances of the gods who have turned their attention to him, some in pity, others in quiet admiration for the satyr's unexpected charm. Apollo, the god who had once assumed himself untouchable in the realm of music, feels the sting of his first true defeat. The satyr, however, remains calm, almost unbothered by the tension in the air. His music, simple and unpolished, had spoken to something primal within the gods, something deeper than skill or technique. As he watches Apollo, there is a subtle sense of victory in his eyes, but it is tempered with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing he has shown something more than what was expected of him. The gods, for all their power and divine beauty, had been moved by the rawness of his music, a reminder that there is value in every form of expression, no matter how imperfect. Historians still argue whether the satyr's win was a simple fluke or if there was a deeper, symbolic message in the contest. Some believe that the satyr's victory represented the triumph of the natural, the unrefined, over the perfected divine order. Others suggest that it was simply a reflection of the gods' need to be reminded that beauty isn't always about perfection, that there is something deeply powerful in the authenticity of raw emotion and expression. Regardless of interpretation, one thing is certain: Apollo's pride had been wounded, and the satyr's music had left an indelible mark on the gods. The sound of the pan flute lingers in the air, a soft and almost haunting echo of the contest's outcome. For a moment, the gods are silent, as if they too are processing what has just happened. And then, as if on cue, Zeus, the king of the gods, steps forward. His eyes scan the crowd, his expression unreadable. The gods fall silent, waiting for his decision. The gods look on, all eager to hear Zeus's judgment. Apollo, ever the proud one, stands tall, though the tension in his posture betrays his inner turmoil. He had never expected to lose, not to a creature like the satyr. But here they were, at the end of the contest, and Apollo knew that his celestial grace could not be compared to the raw, untamed power of the satyr's music. Zeus looks at Apollo first, then at the satyr, his gaze heavy with the weight of the moment. His decision will carry far more weight than just the outcome of a musical contest. It will serve as a lesson to the gods, a reminder of the importance of humility and the value of diverse forms of expression. And as the gods wait for Zeus's verdict, the air grows still, as though time itself is holding its breath. Historians still debate Zeus's decision. Some believe that he saw the lesson in the satyr's victory and granted him the honor of winning, not out of favoritism, but out of respect for the simplicity and beauty of the satyr's music. Others argue that Zeus's judgment was more political, ensuring that Apollo, the mighty god, was not left too humbled in the eyes of the gods. Regardless of the reasoning, the contest had made a lasting impression on everyone present, gods and mortals alike. As Zeus opens his mouth to speak, the windmill-like turn of the satyr's flute seems to echo in the distance, a reminder that even the smallest, humblest of sounds can rise to challenge the gods themselves. The air is thick with anticipation as Zeus steps forward, ready to deliver his judgment on the contest that has held the gods in rapt attention. For a moment, time seems to slow, as the breeze stirs the leaves and carries the echo of the satyr's last note. Even Apollo, despite his divine composure, stands still, his gaze unwavering, awaiting the words of Zeus. The satyr, on the other hand, stands with quiet pride, his face betraying no emotion, confident in the simplicity of his victory. The gods hold their collective breath, knowing that this moment will go down in history, whatever the outcome. Zeus, with his omnipotent gaze, looks from Apollo to the satyr, weighing the situation in his mind. For the king of the gods, this is more than just a musical contest. It is a lesson about pride, humility, and the many forms of beauty that exist in the world. The gods have always admired Apollo's perfection, his flawless talent, but today they are reminded that there is something equally powerful in the raw and unrefined. The gods are not gods because they are perfect. They are gods because they represent all of existence, from the highest peaks to the deepest depths, and in that balance lies true power. Finally, Zeus speaks, his voice calm but carrying the weight of divine authority. The contest, he begins, has not been about who plays the better tune, but about what moves the heart. He looks at Apollo, his tone softening slightly. Your music is divine, Apollo, a melody so pure that it reaches the heavens, but the satyr's music touches the earth. The gods have witnessed both, and I see that both are powerful in their own right. A murmur ripples through the crowd of gods, as they begin to comprehend the implications of Zeus's words. This isn't a simple victory for one or the other. It is a recognition of the different types of beauty and expression that exist. Apollo, for all his divine skill, has been reminded that perfection alone does not always win hearts. The satyr, with his earthy, rustic sound, has captured something deeper, something primal that speaks to the god's own connection to the natural world. Zeus continues, his voice rising slightly with the authority of his words. Let this contest be a reminder to all of us that beauty and power come in many forms. It is not always the polished and perfect that wins the day, but the raw, the authentic, the real. He turns to the satyr, a nod of approval in his eyes. You have won, not because you are more skilled than Apollo, but because your music speaks to the essence of life itself. The gods nod in agreement, the tension in the air lifting as they come to terms with Zeus's decision. Apollo, though still proud, feels a shift within himself. It is not a defeat in the way he imagined, but a humbling reminder that his music, though flawless, is not the only kind of music that matters. There is something equally valuable in the rustic charm and untamed energy of the satyr's tune. For the satyr, this moment is not just a personal victory. It is a validation of his own music, of his own place in the world. Despite being a creature of the earth, he has been recognized by the gods, his music acknowledged as powerful and meaningful. The satyr's smile spreads, a knowing look of quiet triumph, but it is not a boastful one. He has won not just the contest, but the respect of the gods themselves. Historians still argue whether Zeus's decision was fair, or if it favored the satyr too much. Some believe that Apollo's music, being divine, should have triumphed regardless of the satyr's charm. Others argue that Zeus's judgment was exactly what was needed to teach the gods and mortals alike that there is beauty in every form of expression, no matter how imperfect it may seem. What is clear, however, is that the contest itself, and Zeus's ultimate decision, changed the way both gods and mortals viewed the role of music in their world. As the contest comes to a close, the windmill of divine harmony continues to turn. Apollo, though humbled, finds a new respect for the satyr's music, and the satyr, in his quiet victory, has proven that even the smallest voice can echo through the heavens. The gods, for the first time in a long while, are reminded that their perfection does not make them infallible, and that there is power in humility. The sound of the satyr's pan flute lingers in the air, a soft, lingering reminder that even in the presence of gods, it is the simple, authentic things that sometimes speak the loudest. The gods, once so sure of their own perfection, are now left with a deeper understanding of the balance that exists between them and the natural world, between the divine and the earthly. As the gods gather their thoughts, the energy of the moment begins to settle, and Apollo, though still standing tall, cannot help but reflect on the deeper implications of Zeus's judgment. His pride, once an unshakable fortress, now feels a little more fragile. For the first time, Apollo realizes that perfection, while admirable, can sometimes feel distant. The satyr, by simply being himself, unpolished, natural, and in tune with the world around him, has captured something that Apollo's celestial music, as beautiful as it is, cannot always reach. The contest, which had begun as a rivalry between the divine and the earthly, has shifted into something more profound. Apollo, despite his superior skill and godly nature, finds himself confronted with the humbling truth that music is not just about flawless execution. It is also about connection, authenticity, and the rawness of emotion. Apollo, the god who could make the very heavens sing, has been bested by a satyr whose music is born from the earth and the wind, from a place far less refined than the divine realm. As Apollo steps back from the contest, a soft breeze stirs the air. The gods, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, begin to murmur among themselves. Some offer supportive glances to Apollo, while others nod in quiet approval of the satyr's unexpected victory. It is not just a victory of sound, it is a victory of the heart, of the ability to connect with the world in a way that transcends skill and perfection. The gods now understand that there is power in the humble, in the unrefined, and in the authenticity that comes from the earth itself. The satyr, though pleased, does not gloat. His music was never meant to challenge Apollo. It was simply a reflection of who he was. He is the voice of the earth, the natural world, and in that he finds his strength. His victory is not one of rivalry, but of unity, a reminder that all forms of expression, all voices, are worthy of respect. The satyr's place among the gods, though unconventional, is now firmly established. He has proven that music, at its core, is not about winning. It is about communicating, about speaking from the soul. The gods begin to disperse, each carrying with them a lesson learned that day. Apollo, though still the god of music, feels a shift within himself. It is not a loss, but a realization. The next time he picks up his lyre, it will not be to outdo others. It will be to create something that resonates, that connects. He has learned that perfection is not the only path to greatness, and that there is power in embracing imperfection. For the satyr, this moment becomes a quiet victory, one that speaks not of superiority, but of acceptance. He was never meant to compete with Apollo. He was simply meant to be himself. And in doing so, he has won the respect of the gods. The world is full of contrasts, of opposites, and the satyr, in his humble way, has reminded everyone that beauty is found in both the celestial and the earthy, in both the divine and the natural. Historians often debate whether the satyr's victory over Apollo had any lasting effects on the way the gods viewed music. Some believe that Apollo's transformation marked the beginning of a more humble approach to artistry, while others suggest that the contest was just another mythological tale, with no deeper implications for the gods. Regardless of the interpretation, the contest between Apollo and the satyr will forever be remembered as a reminder that music, and life itself, is not always about perfection. It is about the connection, the emotion, and the authenticity of the moment. As the windmill of time continues to turn, the legacy of this contest remains, a testament to the idea that every voice, no matter how humble, has its place in the world. The gods may rule the heavens, but it is the earth, with its imperfections and natural beauty, that holds the true power to move hearts. Apollo, once the epitome of musical perfection, now understands that even the smallest voice can echo through eternity. The contest between Apollo and the satyr, though seemingly a small event in the grand tapestry of Greek mythology, carries with it a lasting ripple effect that continues to influence how we view art, music, and the very nature of competition. For the gods, it is a turning point, a reminder that even they are not immune to the power of imperfection and humility. But for Apollo, this moment represents a deep personal shift. It is not simply about losing to the satyr. It is about realizing that his musical perfection, once the standard by which all others were measured, has its limits. Apollo, standing amidst the gods, feels a wave of introspection wash over him. For years, he had believed that his divine nature made him invincible in the realm of music. He had always been the one to inspire admiration, to be worshipped for his flawless melodies and unearthly skill. But now, in the quiet aftermath of the contest, Apollo begins to see that perhaps his music, though beautiful, lacked something essential. It lacked the rawness, the earthiness, the authenticity that the satyr's music had carried so effortlessly. The satyr, in his simple, unpretentious way, had brought something to the surface that Apollo had never considered. That true artistry is not about perfection. It is about expression, emotion, and connection. It is about speaking to the soul, not just the ears. And in that sense, the satyr's victory is not just a triumph of music. It is a triumph of spirit, of the power that exists in every form of creative expression, no matter how humble or unrefined. As the gods begin to disperse, many of them reflect on what they have witnessed. Hermes, the god of communication and trickery, looks at Apollo with a mixture of admiration and amusement. He too understands that there is power in the raw, untamed, and unsophisticated, something that cannot always be captured by the divine. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, watches the satyr with a quiet nod, recognizing that even the most unlikely individuals can possess greatness. And Zeus, ever the king of the gods, silently contemplates the lesson that has been taught, that there is more to victory than simply being the best. Apollo, still processing the contest's outcome, feels a deep sense of change within himself. The defeat stings, but it also brings with it a new understanding. The next time he picks up his lyre, he will play not just for admiration, but for connection. He will play to move hearts, to bring something to life that resonates with those who listen. And perhaps, just perhaps, he will learn to embrace the imperfections in his music, to allow space for the rawness and unpredictability that the satyr's music had embodied. The satyr, too, is changed by this moment. His victory is not just about proving that his music is as worthy as Apollo's. It is about proving that every form of expression, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, holds value. The satyr's music, though far from polished, carried with it the energy of the earth, the rhythms of nature, and the pulse of life itself. His victory is a quiet affirmation that the simplest things can be the most powerful. As the gods continue to reflect on the contest, one thing becomes clear. The balance between the divine and the earthly has been forever altered. Apollo, the god of perfection, has learned that beauty exists not only in flawless execution, but in the authenticity and connection of the artist to their medium. And the satyr, the humble creature of the earth, has shown the gods that sometimes the greatest art comes from the heart, not the mind. The windmill of time continues to turn, its rhythmic hum echoing through the heavens and the earth. The gods, ever so immortal, are reminded that art is not always about mastery. Sometimes it's about being true to oneself. And as Apollo, the satyr, and the gods move forward from this contest, they carry with them the lesson that both perfection and imperfection are needed to create something truly divine. The echo of the contest reverberates through the realms, leaving a lasting impression not only on the gods, but on the very essence of creativity. Apollo, once the embodiment of celestial perfection, now finds himself humbled, yet wiser. It is a strange thing, this shift within him. His divine music had always been flawless, like the stars themselves, timeless and precise. Yet he had overlooked the rawness that exists in life, the very imperfection that often gives things their true power. The satyr, by simply being himself, had opened Apollo's eyes to something he had never considered: the beauty of the unrefined, the vitality in what is messy, and the authenticity in imperfection. As Apollo returns to his realm, still processing the contest's outcome, the gods who watched the performance also begin to reflect on their own views of artistry and perfection. Some of them, particularly Athena, the goddess of wisdom, muse quietly on the deeper implications of what they witnessed. She understands the balance between order and chaos, perfection and rawness. After all, she herself is a goddess of strategy and intellect, both structured and calculated. And yet, even she knows the importance of spontaneity, of expression that is not bound by the constraints of order. Meanwhile, Hermes, ever the trickster, is unable to suppress his amusement. To him, the contest was more than a simple musical duel. It was a reminder that even the gods are not immune to being taught. Hermes admires the satyr for his boldness and raw emotion. He understands that sometimes it's not about winning, but about making your voice heard, no matter how unconventional it may be. The satyr's music, though not perfect in the traditional sense, had spoken directly to the hearts of the gods. It had stirred something deep within them, something that Apollo's flawless music, in all its celestial beauty, had not done. As time passes, the story of the contest spreads across the heavens and the earth. Mortals who have heard whispers of the contest begin to ponder the lessons hidden in the myth. Some see the story as a tale of triumph for the underdog, for the one who dared to be different and speak in his own voice. Others interpret it as a reminder that perfection is not the ultimate goal of artistry. The satyr, who had not trained for years in the fine art of music, had, through his natural, uninhibited expression, touched something in the gods that they could not ignore. Historians continue to debate the full meaning of the contest, but one thing is clear: it serves as a reminder to both gods and mortals that true artistry lies in authenticity. It's not about mastering every note or hitting every mark perfectly. It's about the emotion that flows through the music, the connection it creates with the listener, and the expression of something raw and real. The gods may have been celestial beings, but the Satyr showed them that music, like life itself, is a living, breathing thing. It's imperfect, unpredictable, and beautiful in its own way. And so, the contest between Apollo and the Satyr becomes a pivotal moment in Greek mythology. It is a story that teaches the gods and mortals alike that there is power in imperfection. The gods, in all their divine wisdom and beauty, are reminded that sometimes the most profound lessons come from the simplest of places. Apollo, once so certain of his superiority, learns that there is more to music, to art, and to life than perfection. It is not the flawless that moves the soul. It is the real, the raw, the authentic. The winds of change continue to blow, and with them, the soft, haunting tune of the Satyr's pan flute lingers in the air, reminding all who listen that beauty, in all its forms, deserves to be heard. The story of the contest between Apollo and the Satyr slowly becomes a legend whispered through the halls of Olympus and beyond, spreading through the mortal world like the ripples of a stone cast into a still pond. In time, it transforms from an isolated event into a symbol of artistic expression, a timeless tale that serves as a lesson not only to the gods but to all who seek to create. It speaks to the balance between perfection and imperfection, between divine skill and raw, untamed creativity, and the gods who once thought themselves untouchable are forever changed by it. For Apollo, this change isn't just a shift in how he views music, it's a transformation in how he perceives his place in the world. His role as the god of music, once synonymous with flawless beauty and celestial perfection, now feels less certain. Apollo has always associated himself with harmony, structure, and order, the very qualities that make his music divine. But after the contest, he begins to understand that music, and art in general, cannot be confined to these ideals. Music is not just a perfect arrangement of notes, it is a reflection of life itself, messy, unpredictable, and full of raw emotion. And just like that, Apollo's divine perspective broadens. He no longer sees himself as the only one worthy of admiration in the realm of music. Instead, he now appreciates the Satyr's music, not for its technical mastery, but for its authenticity. Even as Apollo adjusts to this new understanding, the Satyr's victory continues to echo in the hearts of the gods. The Satyr, once dismissed as a simple creature of the earth, now occupies a place of respect among the divine. His music, though primitive and unrefined, speaks to a deep, primal truth that even the gods can't ignore. The Satyr's victory is a reminder that not all that is powerful comes from perfection. It reminds the gods, and all who hear the story, that there is a beauty in simplicity, in expression that is unburdened by the need to impress. In the mortal world, the story takes on a life of its own. Poets, musicians, and philosophers are inspired by the contest, finding in it not just a tale of musical competition, but a reflection of the human condition. It becomes a symbol of the artist's struggle between striving for perfection and embracing the imperfect aspects of their own creations. It speaks to the soul of the creative process, one that is often messy, unpredictable, and filled with moments of doubt and self-reflection. As centuries pass, the myth of Apollo and the Satyr endures, retold in countless variations. Some see the story as a simple lesson in humility, others as a meditation on the nature of art itself. The lesson remains the same. Perfection is not the ultimate goal of creativity. Whether in music, painting, writing, or any other form of artistic expression, it is the raw, authentic self that speaks to the hearts of others. Apollo's celestial perfection is beautiful, but it is the Satyr's wild, untamed music that moves the gods. For those who create, the story of the contest serves as a reminder to embrace the imperfections in their work. It encourages them to find beauty in the moments when things don't go as planned, to understand that mistakes are not failures, but opportunities to discover something new, something uniquely theirs. The Satyr's music wasn't polished, but it was real, and that, perhaps, is why it resonated so deeply with the gods. As you listen to the windmill-like rhythm of the Satyr's pan flute turning in the distance, consider the creative process you go through in your own life. Perhaps there are times when you feel the need to perfect your work, to make everything flawless before sharing it with the world. But remember, perfection isn't always the answer. Sometimes it's the rawness, the vulnerability, and the authenticity that connect with others the most. Just as Apollo learned from the Satyr, we too can learn to embrace the imperfections in our own creations. After all, it is in the imperfections that the true beauty of life lies. As time moves forward, the myth of the contest between Apollo and the Satyr continues to resonate deeply, not just among the gods but among mortals who hear its tale. This ancient story, once a simple musical duel, grows into a profound reflection on the creative journey, a journey that is at once universal and uniquely personal. The gods, so often removed from the human experience, find in the contest a reminder that even they are susceptible to the whims of life's unpredictability, and that art, like the soul, cannot always be neatly ordered or controlled. It is a reminder that sometimes the best creations come not from mastery, but from the courage to be imperfect, to create from a place of authenticity. In the mortal realm, the influence of this myth spreads, taking root in the hearts of artists and creators. From the poets of the ancient world to the composers of the Renaissance, the story of Apollo and the Satyr becomes a touchstone for artistic expression. It is not just a story about music, it is a story about what it means to create, to be human, and to find meaning in what we make. The contest serves as a parable for anyone who has ever doubted their own abilities, for anyone who has struggled with the balance between perfection and authenticity. The contest also has a lasting impact on the way the ancient Greeks view their gods. For centuries, the gods had been revered not just for their power, but for their perfection, their unshakable authority. Apollo, the god of music and poetry, had always been considered the epitome of divine grace and skill. But after the contest, the gods begin to see that perfection, while beautiful, is not the only form of greatness. There is something equally divine in the rawness of the earth, in the unrefined sounds that echo the pulse of life itself. And in this realization, Apollo finds peace. No longer burdened by the need to be flawless, he embraces the imperfections that make him who he is. The divine music he plays now carries more than just beauty. It carries depth, it carries life. He plays not just to be admired, but to connect with others, to speak to their hearts in a way that transcends technical mastery. In this, Apollo finds new purpose, new meaning in his art. He has learned that there is strength in vulnerability, that in accepting imperfection, we become more whole. For the Satyr, the contest's outcome is a quiet victory, but one that carries with it a deeper understanding of his place in the world. He knows that his music, though lacking in the polish of Apollo's, has something even more important: authenticity. The Satyr's melody, untamed and free, echoes the natural world, and in that, it resonates with both gods and mortals. His victory is not about being better than Apollo. It is about being true to himself, about playing from a place of unbridled expression. The Satyr's music is the sound of the earth itself, a reminder that sometimes, the simplest things can have the most profound impact. As we reflect on the contest, it's easy to see how the myth transcends its original context. It becomes a metaphor for every artist, every creator, who struggles to find their voice in a world that often values perfection over authenticity. The contest between Apollo and the Satyr reminds us that art is not about flawless execution. It's about expressing who we truly are, flaws and all. It's about connecting with others, about moving beyond our own self-doubt and embracing the power of our own voices. In the end, the myth teaches us that there is no one path to greatness. Apollo's divine skill and the Satyr's raw, unpolished music both hold their own kind of power. And just like that, we too must embrace our own creative journeys, not defined by perfection, but by the courage to be ourselves. Just as the windmill spins and the seasons change, our art will evolve, shaped by the forces of nature, by life's ups and downs, and by the simple, beautiful imperfections that make us who we are. The myth of Apollo and the Satyr, despite its origins as a tale of rivalry and competition, holds lessons that extend far beyond the world of music. At its core, it speaks to the complexity of the human experience, the interplay between ambition and authenticity, perfection and imperfection. As we examine the contest in more depth, it becomes clear that the myth's relevance isn't just about the clash of gods and mortals, but about how we approach our own lives and creative endeavors. Apollo, once so certain of his own superiority, finds that the world is not as simple as he had believed. His divine perfection, while awe-inspiring, could not surpass the simple, earthy expression of the Satyr. And this realization becomes pivotal in Apollo's own growth. The gods, who have long been seen as untouchable, are reminded that they too must evolve. The myth teaches us that even the most powerful among us are not exempt from transformation, and that true greatness comes not from being untouchable, but from embracing vulnerability and humility. The Satyr's victory, though small in the grand scheme of the gods' many conflicts, represents a powerful shift in how we understand art and creativity. It is not about mastery, perfection, or technical skill. It is about truth, expression, and connection. The Satyr, in his unrefined, raw way, created something that resonated with the gods on a deep, elemental level. His music was not about impressing others. It was about being authentic, about speaking from the heart. And that, it turns out, is the kind of art that lasts, the kind that speaks to the soul. As we move forward, we can reflect on how these themes play out in our own lives. How often do we chase after perfection in our own work, thinking that only flawless execution will bring us success or recognition? Apollo, in his divine wisdom, had to learn that true greatness isn't about being flawless. It's about being genuine, about connecting with others in a meaningful way. The Satyr, with his carefree expression, taught Apollo that art and life itself are far richer when we embrace the imperfections that make us human. And so, the lesson of the contest between Apollo and the Satyr becomes one of balance. It's about understanding that there is a place for both perfection and imperfection in the world. Just as the seasons change, so too do our creative expressions, ebbing and flowing with the natural rhythms of life. Some moments may call for precision and control, while others may call for the freedom to express ourselves in ways that are messy, unpolished, and raw. For Apollo, this realization marks the beginning of a new phase in his existence. No longer will he strive to be the perfect, untouchable god. Instead, he will play with more honesty, more heart, and more connection to those who listen. He understands that the divine is not just about mastery, it is about being fully present, about engaging with the world around him in a way that speaks to others, that moves them. The Satyr, meanwhile, continues to play his pan flute, content in his unassuming way. His music may not have the grandeur of Apollo's divine compositions, but it is no less powerful. It resonates with the earth itself, with the rhythms of nature, and with the hearts of those who listen. In his simplicity, the Satyr has reminded us all that art is not about grandeur or recognition. It is about expression, authenticity, and connection. As the myth winds down, we are left with the image of Apollo, once the epitome of perfection, now embracing a more humble, yet deeply powerful approach to his art. And the Satyr, his music still echoing in the hearts of gods and mortals alike, continues to be a symbol of the beauty found in the raw, the real, and the unrefined. This story, though set in a time long ago, remains a timeless reminder of the value of authenticity in our own creative journeys, and in the ways we connect with the world around us. As Apollo and the Satyr move on from the contest, both are forever changed, and so too is the way that music, and art in general, will be perceived by both gods and mortals. Apollo, having learned to appreciate the value of imperfection and rawness in creativity, begins to redefine what it means to be an artist. No longer does he view his divine gifts as the only path to greatness. He learns that music, art, and life are not just about perfection, they are about honesty, emotion, and connection. And the Satyr, in his simple victory, finds himself elevated in the eyes of the gods. His music, once seen as primitive and unrefined, is now recognized as a force in its own right. While Apollo may still be the god of celestial harmony, the Satyr has shown the gods that there is power in the earth's untamed rhythms, the rhythms that come from the heart, not the mind. His victory is not just a testament to his own ability, but a reminder to all that greatness does not come solely from skill or divine talent, but from authenticity and truth. This shift in the gods' perception of art, and of themselves, begins to ripple outward, affecting not just the world of music, but the very essence of what it means to be a creator. Artists, philosophers, and poets, both divine and mortal, start to recognize that the pursuit of perfection is not the ultimate goal. It's the act of creation itself that is important, the process, the expression, the connection to something greater. Perfection, they begin to understand, is an illusion. It's the raw, unrefined energy of creation that moves the world. In the mortal realm, the story of the contest spreads. It becomes a legend, one that transcends its original context and enters the collective consciousness of those who create. Poets, musicians, painters, and philosophers take up the story of Apollo and the Satyr as a reminder that their craft is not about achieving perfection. It is about expressing the truth of their experiences. The myth becomes a cornerstone of artistic philosophy, one that encourages creators to embrace their imperfections, to find beauty in their flaws, and to create from a place of honesty and vulnerability. The Satyr's victory over Apollo is no longer just about a musical contest. It becomes a larger metaphor for the artist's journey. In the act of creating, we all face our own struggles between perfection and authenticity. The Satyr, with his simple music, teaches us that it is in the rawness of our expression that we find our truest form of beauty. Apollo, with his divine skill, reminds us that there is power in precision and mastery, but that this power alone cannot move hearts in the way that simple, honest expression can. And so, in the years that follow, both gods and mortals continue their creative journeys, each influenced by the contest that once seemed so trivial, but which has, in reality, shaped the course of artistic expression for centuries to come. The gods, who once believed in their invulnerability, are reminded that even they must learn to grow, to adapt, and to embrace the complexity of creation. The satyr, whose music was once dismissed, becomes a symbol of the beauty found in authenticity. And artists of all kinds, in both the divine and mortal realms, continue to find inspiration in the lesson that was taught, that true greatness comes not from flawlessness, but from the courage to create, to express, and to connect. As you reflect on Apollo's change and the satyr's quiet victory, remember that in your own creative pursuits, it is not perfection that matters. It is the act of creating, of being true to yourself, of embracing your flaws and imperfections. For in the end, it is the authenticity of your work that will move others, not the flawless execution of a perfect idea. Apollo's divine music may have been perfect, but it was the satyr's raw, untamed melody that truly resonated with the gods. And so, as you embark on your own creative journey, remember the lesson of the contest, that authenticity, not perfection, is the true measure of artistic greatness. As Apollo and the satyr both return to their respective domains, the myth of their contest continues to echo across the ages, providing inspiration to countless generations. The gods and mortals alike are forever marked by the contest's outcome. For Apollo, it is a moment of profound realization, an awakening to the complexity of art and creativity that transcends his perfect musical abilities. For the satyr, it is a quiet victory, but one that carries with it a deeper understanding of his place in the cosmos. The satyr's music, born from the earth, speaks to a deeper, rawer truth that even the gods cannot ignore. The contest is more than just a tale of musical rivalry. It is a story about the nature of art itself. It asks the question, what is art, if not a reflection of the soul? Apollo's celestial music may have been flawless, but it was the satyr's untamed, imperfect music that stirred the gods' hearts. And in this, we see that the heart of art is not perfection but expression. The myth of Apollo and the satyr teaches us that there is more to music, to art, than technical skill. There is the human element, the passion, the vulnerability, the authenticity, that connects with us on a deeper level. In the mortal world, this lesson begins to spread. Artists of all kinds, musicians, poets, painters, sculptors, take up the mantle of the satyr's music, finding their own voices in a world that often values perfection above all else. The story becomes a touchstone for creative people everywhere, a reminder that the true power of art lies not in flawless execution, but in the ability to speak to others, to connect with them, to move them. And in this way, the contest becomes a guide for every creator who has ever struggled with doubt, with self-criticism, or with the pressure to conform to an ideal of perfection. The impact of the contest is felt not just in the world of the gods, but across the realms of mortals. It becomes a symbol of the struggle that all artists face, the tension between technical mastery and raw expression, between perfection and authenticity. In every corner of the world, creators begin to embrace their flaws, to celebrate the messiness of their work, and to understand that it is in their imperfections that they find their true voice. The satyr, once a simple creature of the earth, becomes a symbol of creative freedom, of the beauty found in spontaneity, in expression unbound by the need for perfection. But this lesson is not just about art. It also speaks to the very human experience of growth and self-discovery. Apollo's transformation from a god of flawless perfection to a creator who values authenticity mirrors the journey that many of us undergo in our own lives. We too, at times, find ourselves striving for perfection, chasing an ideal that may never come to fruition. But like Apollo, we must learn that it is not perfection that defines us, but our ability to express ourselves honestly, to embrace who we are, flaws and all. As you reflect on the lessons of the myth, think about how they apply to your own life. Where in your own creative journey have you felt the pull between perfection and authenticity? Where have you, like Apollo, tried to perfect every note, every line, only to find that it is the imperfect, the real, the raw part of you that connects with others? Remember that the satyr's music, though unpolished, was powerful because it was real. In the end, it wasn't Apollo's divine perfection that moved the gods. It was the raw energy, the honesty, and the expression that the satyr brought into the world. The myth of Apollo and the Satyr teaches us that art is not about perfection, it is about truth. The Satyr's victory is a reminder that the heart of creativity lies not in technical mastery, but in the courage to be vulnerable, to create from a place of authenticity. So, as you move forward in your own creative journey, remember the lesson of the contest. Embrace your imperfections, speak from the heart, and know that it is in those moments of raw, unrefined expression that you will find your true artistic power. As the story of Apollo and the Satyr continues to resonate across time, we find that its message stretches far beyond the realms of mythology and art. The myth, at its core, is not just about the gods and their musical contest. It is a reflection of the very human struggle between perfection and authenticity, mastery and creativity. In fact, it provides a profound commentary on the pressures we all face in our personal and creative lives. The contest is a reminder that while striving for excellence is important, it is the truth of our expression that ultimately matters most. This theme of balancing perfection and imperfection is universal. In every aspect of life, we are confronted with the tension between what we want to be and what we truly are. Apollo, the god of perfection, embodies the aspiration for flawlessness that many of us chase in our own lives. Whether it is in our work, our relationships, or our personal growth, we often measure our worth against an unattainable ideal. But the Satyr's victory teaches us that sometimes, it is in our imperfections that we discover our true strength, our authentic selves. The Satyr's music, unpolished as it was, echoed a rawness and vulnerability that Apollo's perfect notes could never match. Now, think about the everyday implications of this myth. How often do we find ourselves caught in a cycle of self-doubt, questioning whether our work, our creations, or even our lives measure up to some impossible standard? Apollo's perfectionism led him to focus on flawless execution, but the Satyr's authenticity gave him a deeper connection to those who heard his music. It is a powerful reminder that while striving for improvement is important, we must also learn to embrace the beauty of our imperfections. This theme of imperfection and authenticity is particularly resonant in today's world, where so much emphasis is placed on perfection, especially with the rise of social media and the constant comparison it brings. We are constantly surrounded by images of idealized lives, perfect careers, and flawless appearances, creating a false narrative of what success and happiness look like. In the face of this, the myth of Apollo and the Satyr offers a refreshing perspective. It tells us that our value does not lie in our perfection, but in the honesty with which we approach the world, the courage we have to express ourselves without the need for approval or validation. So, as we consider the myth from the perspective of the gods, we are reminded that the story is not just about Apollo's ego or the Satyr's triumph. It is about the eternal human struggle to reconcile the pursuit of perfection with the necessity of embracing imperfection. The Satyr's victory symbolizes the power of authenticity, reminding us that it is not the flawless aspects of ourselves that connect us to others. It is the real, unguarded parts of us that resonate with others the most. Apollo's divine music, though beautiful, was isolated, removed from the humanity that the Satyr's music embodied. In the end, the myth encourages us to look beyond surface-level perfection and to find beauty in the rawness of life. Whether in our creative pursuits or in our relationships, it is the real, imperfect moments that are most meaningful. The Satyr's music, unrefined and wild, connected with the hearts of the gods because it was genuine, unfiltered, and full of life. Apollo's perfect music, on the other hand, while technically masterful, lacked the depth that comes from true, unvarnished expression. The myth reminds us that in our own lives, we too can find power and connection by embracing our imperfections and expressing ourselves authentically. As you reflect on the contest, think about how it applies to your own journey. How often do you chase after perfection at the expense of authenticity? How much more could you accomplish if you allowed yourself to create, to speak, and to live without the need for flawless execution? Just as the Satyr's music moved the gods, your own unique, unrefined voice has the power to connect with the world around you in ways that perfection never could. Embrace your imperfections, for they are the key to your truest self and the source of your greatest strength. As we come to the closing chapters of this myth, let's look at the legacy of the contest between Apollo and the Satyr and what it leaves us with. The story, while rooted in ancient Greek mythology, has transcended its mythological origins, becoming a lasting symbol for the ongoing struggle between perfectionism and authenticity. Apollo, the epitome of divine beauty and precision, learns a lesson that many of us have struggled with. True greatness does not come from flawlessness. It comes from embracing who you truly are, from finding your voice and expressing it without fear. The Satyr, in his humble and raw victory, serves as a reminder that often, the most powerful creations come not from striving for perfection, but from embracing vulnerability and raw expression. His music, though imperfect, carried with it a sense of realness that resonated deeply with both gods and mortals. While Apollo's perfect music may have impressed in the moment, it was the Satyr's authentic and untamed melody that left a lasting impact. And this is the essence of creativity. True art connects not because it is flawless, but because it speaks to the heart, the soul, and the shared human experience. This myth, therefore, teaches us about balance. We are all creators, whether in our personal lives, in our professions, or in our art. And as creators, we constantly grapple with the tension between perfection and authenticity. Apollo's perfectionism, his desire to outshine all others, is something many of us can relate to. We want our work to be flawless, to be admired, to be perfect. But the Satyr's victory shows us that it is the unrefined, the raw, the deeply human elements of our creations that truly matter. It is in those moments when we embrace our flaws that we create something that resonates with others, something that leaves a mark. In the world of the gods, Apollo's understanding of this lesson is transformative. He no longer sees perfection as the only path to greatness. Instead, he learns that the beauty of creation lies in its authenticity. The divine music he plays becomes more than just a beautiful sound. It becomes a way to connect with others, to share a piece of himself. Apollo's transformation represents the shift from perfectionism to authenticity, from striving for flawless execution to creating from the heart. And in this transformation, Apollo finds true greatness. The Satyr, too, experiences a quiet but profound victory. Though he may not have the fame or grandeur of Apollo, his music speaks to something deeper. It reminds us that art is not about competition or recognition. It is about expression, connection, and the ability to move others with the raw honesty of our work. The Satyr's music continues to resonate, not because it is perfect, but because it is real. And in that, there is a lesson for all of us. As you reflect on the myth, consider the impact it has had on your own creative journey. How often do you, like Apollo, strive for perfection in everything you do? How often do you hold yourself back, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect condition, or the perfect execution? And how often do you, like the Satyr, express yourself from a place of raw honesty, letting go of the need for perfection and simply creating from the heart? The Satyr's victory reminds us that we don't have to be flawless to make a lasting impact. We just have to be ourselves. The contest between Apollo and the Satyr teaches us that true art, true creativity, is born from authenticity. Perfection may impress in the short term, but it is the raw, unrefined expression that leaves a lasting mark on the world. Whether you are creating art, building something in your life, or simply living each day, remember that it is your true self, the messy, imperfect, beautiful you, that the world needs. The Satyr's music was imperfect, but it was real, and it is that realness that makes it timeless. As the myth of Apollo and the Satyr begins to settle into the broader fabric of ancient Greek thought, it's important to consider how the story relates to the concept of competition itself. We often think of competition as something that drives us to be better, to reach new heights, to surpass others. Apollo, as the god of the sun, of music, of prophecy, is the epitome of this competitive spirit. His pursuit of perfection drives him to challenge the Satyr, believing that his divine musical prowess will easily defeat the seemingly untalented creature. But in doing so, Apollo discovers that there is more to competition than simply being the best. It's about understanding what makes us unique, what makes us authentic. The contest between Apollo and the Satyr speaks to the very nature of competition in our world today. It challenges the idea that victory is solely about technical mastery, about being the most skilled or the most accomplished. While Apollo's music is flawless, it is the Satyr's unrefined yet deeply resonant melodies that move the gods. In this sense, the myth asks us to rethink what it means to be successful, and whether winning truly means being the best in terms of technique, or whether it means being true to ourselves. Apollo's flaw is that he lacks the depth of emotion and authenticity that the Satyr naturally embodies. In the end, it is not Apollo's perfection that wins the competition, it is the Satyr's raw expression. This lesson is especially pertinent in the context of modern life, where the pursuit of perfection is often elevated above all else. We live in a world where technical skill, polished surfaces, and idealized images are often prioritized, especially in creative fields. Apollo's divine skill and mastery over music reflect the modern obsession with achieving perfection, yet it is the Satyr's humble, earthbound expression that ultimately prevails. The message is clear. True success is not defined by flawlessness, but by authenticity, by being able to connect with others through honesty and emotion. But there's a deeper layer to this myth as well, one that deals with the question of what it means to truly understand and appreciate art. Apollo's music, while divine and perfect, lacks the connection that the Satyr's simple melodies have. The Satyr's music is born from the earth, from the heart, and that is why it resonates more deeply with the gods. The moral of the myth is that true appreciation of art requires more than just skill. It requires an emotional connection, a vulnerability that is not always present in technical mastery. Apollo's shift in perspective after the contest is a crucial turning point. His understanding of music, of art, and of creativity deepens as he learns that there is more to being a great artist than technical excellence. He begins to see that his music, while perfect, was somewhat empty because it lacked the heart and soul that the Satyr's simple tunes embodied. This realization is a humbling moment for Apollo. It shows that even the gods, who have so much power and ability, can learn from those who seem to be less skilled, less accomplished, or less refined. In this context, the myth also speaks to the tension between the divine and the mortal, between the gods and humans. Apollo's divine nature made him believe he could simply outshine the Satyr, who was thought of as an unrefined, earthy creature. But in the end, it is the Satyr's connection to the earth, to nature, and to the rawness of life that gives his music the power to move others. Apollo's divine abilities did not make him infallible or immune to learning. In fact, his very flaw was that he believed his perfection was all that was needed to connect with others. The Satyr, in his imperfection, had something that Apollo lacked: authenticity. As you reflect on this contest and its outcome, consider how you approach your own pursuits. Do you, like Apollo, strive for perfection in everything you do, believing that it is the only way to succeed? Or do you, like the Satyr, embrace your imperfections and allow yourself to create from a place of authenticity and emotion? The myth teaches us that while perfection is admirable, it is the ability to connect with others, to express ourselves truly and deeply, that ultimately makes our work meaningful. The myth of Apollo and the Satyr, with its exploration of authenticity versus perfection, has much to teach us about our own creative processes. We are all in some ways engaged in a contest of sorts, a contest between the urge to be perfect and the desire to be real. It is in this balance that true artistry and success are found. As Apollo and the Satyr's story demonstrates, the most profound and lasting works of art are not necessarily the ones that are technically flawless, but those that speak from the heart, that resonate with others on a deep and emotional level. So, as you continue on your own journey of creativity and self-expression, take a moment to consider the lessons of Apollo and the Satyr. Let go of the need for perfection, and allow yourself to embrace your authenticity. Like the Satyr's humble victory, your true creative power lies not in flawlessness, but in the raw, unguarded expression of who you truly are. As the myth of Apollo and the Satyr continues to ripple through the fabric of storytelling, we begin to see its enduring relevance not just in the realm of art and creativity, but in how we approach competition and self-worth. The myth of Apollo's defeat may seem like a simple tale of a god learning humility, but its deeper implications hold significant lessons for anyone struggling with the pressures of perfectionism, ambition, and self-doubt. It asks us to reconsider what it means to truly succeed, urging us to find balance in the pursuit of greatness and to understand that our value is not solely determined by our technical mastery or ability to outshine others. Apollo's character arc in this story, from prideful perfectionist to humbled learner, echoes the inner struggles many face in their own journeys towards self-acceptance. The constant desire for validation, the need to prove ourselves in competition with others, can overshadow the more authentic, personal reasons we create and live. Apollo, who was once sure that his flawless musical ability would make him the undisputed victor, comes to realize that true greatness lies not in being the best, but in being genuine. His loss to the Satyr opens the door for a more meaningful relationship with art, one based on connection rather than flawless execution. Imagine how liberating this lesson could be if we, like Apollo, were able to release our fear of imperfection. How often do we hide our true selves behind a facade of polished work, worried that anything less than perfect would be unacceptable? Apollo's realization, and the Satyr's victory, is an invitation to embrace authenticity over perfection. The Satyr, though rough around the edges, embodies the raw energy that many artists and creators shy away from. His music may not have been as polished as Apollo's, but it carried something that Apollo's perfection could not, a soul-stirring energy that resonated with both the gods and the audience. This is where the myth of Apollo and the Satyr speaks directly to the pressures many of us face in a world that often values external achievements over personal expression. In a society that places so much emphasis on competition, success, and being the best, it can be easy to lose sight of why we create, perform, or strive in the first place. We become so consumed by the desire to be the most impressive, the most skilled, that we forget the real purpose of art and life itself, connection. The Satyr's victory is a reminder that in our pursuit of greatness, we must also nurture authenticity, vulnerability, and the courage to share who we truly are, flaws and all. At this point in the myth, we find ourselves reflecting on the balance of ambition and humility. Both Apollo and the Satyr are driven by different forms of ambition, Apollo by the desire for excellence, and the Satyr by the drive to be heard, to be seen, and to create from his heart. The Satyr's more grounded, unrefined ambition wins the contest because it is not just about external recognition, but about connecting deeply with others. It's a beautiful reminder that, in our own lives, it's not always about striving to be the best at everything. It's about being true to ourselves, staying grounded in who we are, and letting our passions guide us toward what we are meant to create. This shift in perspective, moving away from competition and toward connection, can be transformative for anyone feeling the weight of perfectionism. Whether we're artists, entrepreneurs, parents, or students, the desire to succeed is universal. But the myth of Apollo and the Satyr teaches us that success is not defined by flawless execution. Instead, it's about how deeply we connect with others, how we bring our authentic selves into the world, and how we embrace our imperfections with pride. In art, as in life, it's not perfection that leaves the most lasting impression, it's authenticity. So, as you move forward in your own creative and personal journey, think about how you can embrace imperfection. How can you let go of the need to be flawless, and instead focus on being genuine? Like Apollo, we all need to learn the lesson that true greatness isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, being honest, and connecting with others from a place of authenticity. And like the Satyr, we too can find our true voice when we stop trying to impress others and start creating from the heart. The myth reminds us that sometimes, the greatest victories come from embracing who we are, flaws and all, and finding the courage to share our true selves with the world. It's a message that continues to resonate, not just in the world of mythology, but in our everyday lives. Apollo's defeat and the Satyr's triumph is a victory for all of us who are trying to navigate the balance between perfection and authenticity. It teaches us that the true measure of success is not how flawless we are, but how true we are to ourselves, and how much we dare to create from the heart. Now let's zoom out and take a broader view of the legacy left by the myth of Apollo and the Satyr. This tale, though seemingly light-hearted in its comedic elements, contains profound themes that continue to resonate in modern times. It's easy to see Apollo's pride and the Satyr's unexpected triumph as simple plot points, but the story's deeper message speaks to something more enduring. The importance of humility, the value of authenticity, and the need to embrace the messy, imperfect nature of creation. These are lessons that can be applied in every area of our lives, whether we're working on a creative project, navigating our personal relationships, or striving for success in our careers. The first lesson we can draw from the myth is the inherent value of humility. Apollo, with all his divine talents, learned the hard way that being the best doesn't necessarily mean being the most respected or the most admired. His perfectionism, his focus on flawless technique, created a barrier between him and true connection. On the other hand, the Satyr, with his raw, unpolished style, connected with others on a much deeper level. This speaks to the universal truth that it's not about being the best or the most accomplished. It's about being genuine, authentic, and true to oneself. The Satyr's ability to connect through imperfection is a reminder that the best creations come from a place of vulnerability, of letting go of the fear of judgment, and allowing oneself to simply be. Humility, in this sense, isn't about downplaying one's abilities or achievements. It's about recognizing that perfection isn't the only route to success. It's about accepting that flaws and mistakes are an essential part of the process, not something to be feared or avoided. When Apollo loses to the Satyr, he's humbled by the realization that his pursuit of perfection, while admirable, didn't necessarily lead to the most profound or meaningful connection. The Satyr's music, on the other hand, was imperfect but full of life and raw emotion, qualities that Apollo's perfect, flawless music lacked. As you think about your own life and your own creative pursuits, consider how much of your energy goes into chasing perfection. Do you sometimes get caught in the trap of believing that only flawless work is worth sharing? The myth of Apollo and the Satyr invites you to step back and think about what really matters. Is it perfection that you're after, or is it authenticity? It's the latter that leads to genuine connection, whether you're creating art, building relationships, or pursuing personal growth. Another profound lesson embedded in the myth is the idea that victory is not always about being the strongest or the most skilled. While Apollo's flawless technique made him the most accomplished musician in the contest, it was the Satyr's passion and authenticity that ultimately won the gods over. This concept holds great relevance in today's world, where the constant push for excellence and achievement can sometimes lead to burnout and self-doubt. The Satyr's victory teaches us that it's not about being the best at everything, but about bringing our whole selves into what we do and allowing that authenticity to shine through. Whether you're pursuing a career, developing a skill, or nurturing a relationship, it's the true, unfiltered version of yourself that has the power to leave a lasting impact. As we think about the impact of this myth beyond the realm of creativity, it also holds lessons for how we view success and achievement. In many parts of the world, there is a tendency to define success solely in terms of outward accomplishments, how much we've achieved, how successful we appear, and how others perceive us. The myth of Apollo and the Satyr disrupts this narrative. The Satyr's victory didn't come from striving for outward success, but from embracing his true self and connecting with others in a way that was honest and genuine. This is a powerful reminder that success is not just about outward validation. It's about being true to who you are and finding fulfillment in the process itself. This theme of success beyond perfection also extends to the idea of overcoming self-doubt. Apollo's defeat is a reminder that even the most accomplished among us face moments of failure and challenge. But it's through these moments that we learn and grow. The Satyr, with his unrefined music, didn't worry about being perfect. He focused on expressing himself in a way that felt true. This approach is something we can all learn from. Instead of getting caught up in the fear of failure or not being good enough, we can embrace the process of creation as it is, with all of its flaws and imperfections, knowing that it's through these imperfections that our truest, most impactful work is born. In the end, the myth of Apollo and the Satyr encourages us to rethink our definitions of success, achievement, and value. It asks us to move away from the pursuit of flawless perfection and toward a more meaningful, authentic way of being. It reminds us that our worth isn't defined by how perfect we are, but by how true we are to ourselves and how deeply we connect with others. The Satyr's victory, humble as it may have seemed, offers a timeless lesson on the power of authenticity, vulnerability, and self-expression. And in a world that often values perfection over authenticity, this lesson is more relevant than ever. Now that we've explored the deeper layers of Apollo's myth and the Satyr's surprising victory, let's take a moment to look at how their story reflects the broader cultural values of ancient Greece, especially in terms of their attitudes toward art, competition, and divine intervention. The myth of Apollo and the Satyr was not only a tale of musical rivalry, but also a reflection of the ancient Greek worldview. A worldview that placed a great deal of importance on excellence, beauty, and the pursuit of perfection. But as we've seen, this myth also emphasizes the importance of humility, authenticity, and the value of raw expression. It offers a nuanced understanding of the complex relationship between art, the gods, and the people. In ancient Greece, music was considered one of the highest forms of art, and those who excelled in it were highly revered. Apollo, as the god of music, was believed to be the perfect embodiment of this ideal. He represented the pursuit of excellence in all forms, whether through music, poetry, or prophecy. For Apollo, perfection was the ultimate goal, and anything less than that was unworthy of divine attention. His belief in his own superiority and his focus on technical perfection blinded him to the more important aspects of creation, the emotional resonance and connection that are the true heart of art. On the other hand, the Satyr's victory in the contest reveals a different perspective on art and creativity, one that values emotional expression and authenticity over flawless execution. In many ways, the Satyr's music is a reflection of the natural world, raw and unpolished, but rich with feeling. This is the essence of artistic creation. Art is not just about technical mastery or perfection, but about capturing the human experience in all its complexity and emotion. The The Satyr's music speaks to something deeper than Apollo's perfection. It resonates with the gods because it is real, it is true, and it connects on a soul-deep level. This tension between perfection and authenticity is a theme that runs through many aspects of ancient Greek culture. The Greeks admired beauty and excellence, but they also recognized the value of the imperfect, the raw, and the emotional. This is reflected in their art, their philosophy, and their view of the gods. While the gods were idealized figures of perfection, they were also seen as complex, multifaceted beings with flaws and contradictions. Just as Apollo could be both the god of beauty and the god of wrath, the satyr, too, could embody the qualities of both the wild, untamed nature and the sincere artist. The balance between these extremes is what gives their myth its power and meaning. Moreover, the gods themselves were often seen as participants in human struggles, playing roles in the lives of mortals not just as arbiters of fate, but as examples of the complexities of existence. Apollo's pride, his vanity, and his need to prove his superiority over others are traits that make him relatable. He's not just a flawless god, he's a figure who learns, grows, and changes. In the same way, the satyr, while less divine, is portrayed as a figure who embodies the natural world's imperfections and messiness, and in doing so, he triumphs. The contrast between these two figures speaks to the ancient Greek understanding that life and art are not about achieving perfection, but about navigating the complexities of human nature and experience. The contest itself, though ultimately humorous and light-hearted, also reflects the ancient Greek idea of competition as a means of both growth and self-examination. Greek society placed a high value on competition, not just for honor or glory, but as a way to test one's abilities and learn from others. The athletic games, the theatrical festivals, and even the philosophical debates were all arenas in which individuals could challenge themselves and grow. Apollo's loss to the satyr can be seen as a lesson in humility, a reminder that competition is not only about victory, but also about self-reflection, learning, and understanding the limits of one's own abilities. The myth also raises important questions about the role of the gods in human affairs. Throughout Greek mythology, the gods often intervene in the lives of mortals, either directly or indirectly, influencing their fates and decisions. In the case of the contest between Apollo and the satyr, the gods act as spectators, watching as two different styles of music vie for their attention. In this sense, the myth suggests that the gods themselves are not the sole arbiters of what is good or perfect. Rather, they are moved by the authenticity of the creation, by the emotional truth that lies at the heart of the work. This reflects the idea that the gods, like humans, are affected by the same forces of connection, expression, and authenticity that define the human experience. For us today, this myth provides valuable lessons about creativity, competition, and the search for meaning. We live in a world that often values perfection over authenticity, where success is measured by flawless execution and technical mastery. But Apollo's loss to the satyr teaches us that the true measure of success lies not in how perfect we are, but in how true we are to ourselves and to our creative vision. The satyr's music, though imperfect, connected with the gods on a deeper level because it was real, it was raw, and it came from the heart. In this sense, Apollo's defeat is a victory for us all. It reminds us that creativity is not about achieving perfection. It's about expressing who we truly are, embracing our flaws, and connecting with others in meaningful ways. Just as the satyr's music resonates with the gods because it is genuine, so too can our own work find resonance when we create from a place of authenticity and truth. The myth of Apollo and the satyr encourages us to let go of our obsession with perfection and to embrace the beauty of our own unique expression. As we approach the final moments of this myth, it's important to step back and appreciate the broader implications of Apollo's defeat and the satyr's unexpected victory. While this story is often told with humor and lightness, it carries with it profound insights into the nature of art, competition, and the human experience. The myth teaches us about the relationship between perfection and authenticity, showing us that true success in any artistic endeavor comes not from technical mastery alone, but from genuine expression, emotional resonance, and vulnerability. Apollo's journey in this myth mirrors a common human experience, the struggle between striving for excellence and embracing the imperfections that make us unique. We live in a world that often equates success with perfection, where the pursuit of flawlessness can lead to burnout, self-doubt, and a loss of connection to the deeper meaning of our work. Apollo, as the god of music and perfection, represents this ideal of flawless execution, but his defeat by the Satyr offers a powerful lesson. Perfection, when pursued at the expense of authenticity, can be hollow. The Satyr's victory, on the other hand, demonstrates that true artistic greatness comes not from the pursuit of perfection, but from the courage to be real, to be raw, and to express one's truth. Think about your own experiences with creativity. How often do you find yourself held back by the fear of not being perfect? How many times have you started a project, only to abandon it because it didn't live up to your standards of excellence? Apollo's story encourages us to let go of these unrealistic expectations and instead focus on creating something meaningful, something that resonates with us and others, even if it's not perfect. The Satyr's music wasn't flawless, but it was full of life, emotion, and raw energy. It was this authenticity that captured the attention of the gods, and it's this same authenticity that can make our work resonate with the world. In the context of the myth, the gods themselves serve as a mirror to our own creative struggles. Just as Apollo believed that only perfection would earn him the favor of the gods, many of us believe that only flawless work will earn us the approval of others. But the Satyr's success tells a different story. The gods weren't looking for perfection, they were looking for connection. They were moved not by Apollo's technical skill, but by the sincerity of the Satyr's music. This shift in perspective is liberating, as it reminds us that art isn't about impressing others with our technical prowess. It's about expressing who we are and forging a connection with our audience. The true power of art lies in its ability to move people, to stir emotions, and to convey truths that transcend perfection. Beyond the realm of art, this myth also has significant implications for how we view success in other areas of life. Apollo's obsession with perfection is something many of us can relate to, particularly in a world where success is often measured by achievements, accolades, and external validation. But the Satyr's victory shows us that success is not just about being the best. It's about being authentic, being true to ourselves, and embracing our unique contributions. This lesson is crucial not just for artists, but for anyone navigating the complexities of modern life, where the pressure to conform to societal standards can often feel overwhelming. The myth of Apollo and the Satyr encourages us to redefine success on our own terms and to recognize that our imperfections are what make us truly special. As we reach the conclusion of this myth, it's important to reflect on the powerful symbolism at play. Apollo, as a god, represents the ideals of perfection, beauty, and mastery. But in the end, it is the Satyr, the imperfect, raw figure, who captures the essence of what it means to create. The Satyr's music is not refined, but it is full of passion, energy, and life. And in this, he teaches us that true art is not about being flawless. It's about being genuine, embracing vulnerability, and sharing our unique voice with the world. Apollo's loss becomes a victory for all of us, reminding us that it's not perfection that defines us, but authenticity, passion, and the courage to be ourselves. The Satyr's victory is a victory for the underdog, for those who dare to create without fear of judgment. It is a reminder that there is power in being true to oneself, and that the beauty of art lies in its ability to touch the soul, not in its technical perfection. In a world that often prioritizes perfection, the myth of Apollo and the Satyr offers a refreshing perspective. Success is not defined by flawlessness, but by the authenticity and emotion we pour into our work. Whether in art, relationships, or personal growth, it is our uniqueness, our imperfections, and our raw, authentic selves that make us truly great. As you reflect on this myth, think about how you can apply its lessons to your own life. Let go of the need to be perfect and embrace your authentic self. Create from the heart, not from a place of perfectionism, and trust that your work will resonate with others in ways that you cannot even imagine. Like the Satyr, you too can find success in embracing your true self, imperfections and all. The world is waiting for your unique contribution, and it is in your authenticity that you will find your greatest strength.